Prop the Mic, presented by Props.cash. What's up? We're here for a Thursday night football. It's been a long week of no football. We're ready. I'm excited. Dave, you seem very excited.
Yeah. I am okay. Very excited. I am hoping that we finally get like a good Thursday night football game. I feel like Thursday night football has just been rough for like ever since Amazon took over broadcasting. I think it's been like pretty rough.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get it tonight either, but here's to hoping.
Here's to hoping. We got the hometown Giants, right, against the behemoth 49ers. So it's a bit of a mismatch, especially with the injury news. But I'm excited. Hopefully the Giants pull off something special.
Yeah, we both have a lot of Giants fans in our lives that we want to see some good come to here. So it'd be nice to see the Giants be competitive. The second half of that game against the Cardinals was kind of competitive. At least they showed some signs of life on offense.
They played one good half against the worst team in the league. So that's reason for optimism.
After getting shut out by them in the first half.
I know. But we'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, so let's dive into our picks for today. And then we also got a bunch of submissions on X for some other plays that you guys were interested in. So we'll try to cover those at the end as well. Give you our 2 cents on those. All right, so we got Giants at 49ers. Like I said, Giants are 1-1. Luckily on the season, they should really be 0-2. Niners are 2-0. Niners are minus 10.5 at home. Total is 43.5. So actually decent points for kind of like middle of the pack. Most of these games are around 39, 40 on these primetime games. So let's see if we can get some points tonight. Injuries. I noticed Ayuk is questionable for the 49ers. So that has some implications on the receiving side there. And then obviously the big news is Saquon Barkley is out for the Giants. And also Andrew Thomas, who's offensive tackle for the Giants, is also out. And there are a few other players on the Giants that are out. So let's start positionally, right? Let's start with the quarterbacks. Is that good?
Sounds good. Yeah,
all right, so
that works.
Give me your kind of matchup assessment from a quarterback standpoint.
All right, so quarterbacks against the Giants defense. Couple of things to note. Giants defense has allowed the 8th shortest average pocket time at 2.2 seconds. So that means there'll be some pressure on Purdy here. Their defensive line is 5th in pass rush win rate, so also pretty good, near top of the league there. So I expect some decent pressure on Purdy here. And if you look at the opposing pass block win rate of San Francisco's offensive line, they're 19th in pass block win rate, but did have the 4th biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2. So I don't think that they're horrible, but there is a mismatch here. So one play, I guess we can bring this up. This is one of our followers posted, asked about Brock Purdy passing yards. I think this is a good spot to bring it up. The line's around 230. I would lean under here based on what I just said about the short pocket time, the pass rush. He's only cleared this in 2 of their last 9 wins and 3 of his last 11 overall. So I think this is a nice lean on Purdy here. What do you think? You look into him at all?
Yeah, passing yards and also passing attempts, I think is probably also a good under as well. Do you like both of those?
Yeah, I think so. I think attempts is good. I think they'll probably try to. I think they're going to win this game, and they'll probably try to keep the ball on the ground, keep the clock running. So I think those passing attempts will probably be down based on game script.
All right, I like that.
All right, and then flipping over to the San Francisco defensively. So San Francisco is actually tied for the 2nd longest average pocket time at 2.7 seconds. So we're not talking about big differences here. We're talking about a half a second, but a half a second makes a big difference in the NFL. So I think based on the game script, Daniel Jones is probably going to be attempting a bunch of passes here. Another interesting thing to note is San Francisco has allowed by far the highest number of pass attempts over the first 2 games. They allowed Matt Stafford to throw 55 passes and Kenny Pickett to throw 46. That's 51 pass attempts. That's the highest in the league, second only to Philly at 49. Just for perspective here, league average is 33.5, and Houston's defense allowed the fewest at 18.3. So I think a play on Daniel Jones over 31.5 pass attempts. You can get this at -125 on DK and BetMGM. Is nice here. On the road, he's cleared this in 4 of his last 6. He's cleared this in 4 of his last 8 in losses, and 2 of his last 4 in losses on the road. So, what do you think?
Yeah, that one actually was a submitted pick by our guy John Hurd as well on X. So that's right. I like that one a lot. I think Stafford. I looked at Stafford, 55 pass attempts, like you said, and Pickett 46 pass attempts in the last 2 games for San Francisco. Stafford's more of like a 35, historically a 35 pass attempt per game kind of guy. So he's not really a great comparison for Daniel Jones, who, if you look over the last season and a couple of games, is more of a 29.9 pass attempts a game. Kenny Pickett, however, in last year, he averaged 30 pass attempts a game, right around then. So I think he's a pretty good comparison. And like you said, they fell down big. They had to kind of throw a lot to catch up. That could happen easily. And he put up 46 pass attempts. So I don't think there's a choice here. I think they're going to fall down, and they're going to have to throw the ball a lot to catch up.
And no Saquon too, right? So like, what else are they going to do besides air the ball out? That's the only thing they can do. So
yeah, and also the San Francisco, D, like you said, is giving up decent passing yards too, right? Most pass attempts in the league, but also 23rd most passing yards in the league as well, if you see from Props.cash. So I think it's probably the area to attack San Francisco as well. Game script will support that as well. So I like that a lot. All right, cool. What else you got on anything else on these quarterbacks?
Right, I think just a little parlay off of this one on DK. You could put together, bring this down to 30 pass attempts and put it with 1 passing touchdown, and you get even money plus 100. He's gone over 30 pass attempts in 5 of his last 8 losses, and he's thrown 1 touchdown in 4 of his last 6 losses and 11 of 15 overall. So I think he's good for 1 TD tonight, right?
Yeah, so you're saying if I go to the passing touchdowns on Props.cash and then I look at losing at the end of the 4th quarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the 4 of the last 6. Is that what I'm?
Yep.
All right. Yep. Pretty good.
And then if you then look at overall, it's 11 of 15, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, cool, very good. I didn't realize that DraftKings allows you to alt down the pass attempts. That's really nice.
They allow it they give it to you at like 30, 35, 40, something like that, 30 plus 40, 35 plus. So I thought that was good. Bit of correlation there, more pass attempts, more chances for a passing touchdown. So I think that's good. One other that I liked here. So San Francisco has allowed we'll get to this also with this kind of goes to both quarterback passing and wide receiver receptions, but San Francisco is tied for the 4th most receptions of 10 plus yards this season at 17. So I'm looking at maybe a Daniel Jones long pass over and maybe one of his receivers we'll get to in a second, but you'll see this line around 33.5, 34.5. I think this is pretty good. So then I wanted to see, the guys he's going to be throwing to, can they get this? So Isaiah Hodgins, not going to get it. He's never done it in his career. The highest he's ever gotten was 32. 29, 24. So not going to happen with him. However, Paris Campbell has done this in 4 of his last 12 games. Slayton's done this in 5 of his last 13 games. And Waller, not great at 1 of his last 11. But I think between Campbell and Slayton, one of them can get this 33 and a half yard. And if I had to pick one, I guess I'll give out this pick right now. I'd go Darius Slayton over 17 and a half long reception. I know you love these long rush, long reception plays. The average long reception against San Francisco this season has been 17, so it's right there. You have Allen Robinson. Can we pull those up? If you slide down to the go to that bottom there, nice new feature on Props.cash here.
I don't think we have it for not for the longest. You have it for like all the other standard plays.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But you have, I didn't write down the totals, but you had Allen Robinson and Deontay Johnson on the Steelers. Both went over this by a good number. And then you had Puka and Tutu on the Rams. Both went over this by quite a bit. So I think that's a nice play. I think he has the best chance to do it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the other thing to look at, I was really spending a lot of time today looking at this, but if you look at the snaps as well, Slayton, I think, leads the Giants in snaps for the wide receiver position. Game 1 of the season, he had 45 snaps on a total of 65. And then game 2, he had 55 on a total of 67 snaps. So he's out there pretty much almost the whole offensive snaps. So I like that a lot. I think that's a good play there. All right, before we move off the quarterbacks, you're sneaking into the wide receiver area already.
Yeah, sorry.
I know they're so correlated, but Anyway, let's talk about rushing for the two quarterbacks too, as well, before we leave the quarterback area. So we got Daniel Jones at 40.5 rushing yards. Let's look at 37.5 on DraftKings. And then we got Brock Purdy at 8.5, or as low as 6.5 or 5.5 on points. But you like either of those?
I would probably lean. I don't love them. What I don't like about Daniel Jones, I looked at it. I have a 38.5 here. In losses, he's only cleared this in 3 of his last 8. In wins, he has a nice 75% hit rate, 4 of his last 6. So expecting a loss here. Don't love that. Although you'd think he'd try to make something happen, but I think probably maybe lean more towards passing. So no, I don't love his over on the rush yards. And to be honest, I didn't really dig into Purdy too much. I don't know if you want to pull him up. We could take a look.
Yeah, I didn't love Daniel Jones over rushing yards. Although, I mean, he's pretty electric when he gets out in the open field. He can really bust for a long one, except for that one a couple of years ago where he tripped over his own feet and fell on his face. Right. But I think he's going to struggle to get like a big run against this fairly stout rush defense from San Francisco. But I do think if you're going to go an angle, I think rushing attempts might be good. 7.5 rush attempts, I think won't necessarily happen because he busts big runs, but I think he'll get the volume. I think 8 rushing attempts he's cleared in 4 of his last 5 games, 2 of 2 this season, and those were both in blowouts. The wrong way, and so. So I think that's probably the play I would go with for Daniel Jones, and then I think Purdy's also kind of enticing as well at 2.5 rushing attempts. That's available on less books, but you can get it for -154 on Caesars is the best price. So I think go with attempts if you're going to go either way on the quarterbacks running.
Yeah, I think that's a good angle there.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the wide receivers. Let's continue that conversation. What are you feeling there?
All right, so I went over the one for the Slayton Long reception. I think is nice. Not a lot of basically that was the one metric that was kind of jumping out was these San Francisco with the 4th most receptions of 10+ yards. Basically, all the rest of the metrics for both teams, all the wide receiver advanced metrics we look at, we're all kind of middle of the pack. So what does that tell me? I think if you have a trend on a player that looks good in either direction, I think it's playable because both are kind of just, in the middle of the pack there. Not too good, not too bad. One play that one of the followers on Twitter asked about was Debo receptions. That line's at 4.5. Don't love it. If you look at his home road splits, not great at home. He's done this in 5 of 10, but only 2 of his last 7. But then when you go on the road, 5 of 8 and his last 4 of 5. So I think that's a better opportunity on the road. And like we're thinking, probably keep that clock running, keep the ball on the ground. Maybe not throwing it as much. So you feeling the same way, or you're not looking to fade Debo?
I'm not looking to fade Debo.
I'm not either, but
I mean, what I did what I thought was an interesting observation. Again, you can use the props.cash filters to look at this, but his first half receptions, he's cleared in 4 straight games. Second half, not doing a whole lot. So that kind of fits.
Very nice.
That kind of fits into game script. Is like he's getting thrown the ball a lot. I don't think any of the books are offering first half receptions, but I did see Prize Picks offers first half yards. So you could go that route with him. That's another way of playing it. His first half receiving yards the line is 28.5. At Prize Picks. I think it was maybe closer to 30, but regardless, he's hit that in 4 straight games, and it kind of makes sense with what should happen in this game. So I do like that. I also would want to understand what's happening with Ayuk. If he's truly out, then I think Debo is going to get a bigger role on the receiving standpoint. So I think that could be a good play. Okay. Any other receivers that you like in this game?
Yeah, one other just to call it. So seems to be at least on paper here a decent matchup for tight ends against San Francisco. In terms of fading them. So they've allowed the 9th fewest yards per reception to tight ends. They've allowed the 2nd fewest yards after catch to tight ends and the fewest yards after contact to tight ends. So I think it could be a fade-worthy spot for Darren Waller. I don't know. I don't love it. He's new to the offense here. I don't know, but let's see what we're looking at here. This is one that I picked up on not too long before we went on air. So.
Yeah. So let's first go and feature the section you were trying to show before. If you go all the way to the bottom of the props.cash screen, this is a new addition, I think, this week. You can see what opposing receivers and tight ends have done against San Francisco so far this year. We know that Higbee is the tight end for LA, and he only had 12 receiving yards. And then Freiermuth for Pittsburgh only had 3 receiving yards.
There we go.
So they're definitely fade worthy from that perspective. But I personally wouldn't fade Waller. I think he was a big part of the comeback last week. If you look at his first half production, he had 12 yards on 1 reception. And the second half, he had 5 receptions with 64 yards. So I think that is honestly one of the keys for the Giants is getting this guy involved because he's one of the big acquisitions this offseason. And I think they're going to try to feed him this week. So regardless of how good San Francisco is defending the tight end position, I actually think he could be a good overplay, but I'll personally pass on this one.
And he has a nice connection to one of our WNBA gals now.
Yeah, he's Mr. Kelsey Plum, right?
That's right.
who we'll be talking about this weekend.
This weekend.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let me highlight a player that you were throwing shade at before, Isaiah Hodgins. Mm-hmm. Love this guy. He's actually my favorite Giant. Came over from the Bills mid-season last year. He came over like sometime in November. So you can see he's only played 11 games on the Giants. And he's cleared his receiving yards in 7 of 11 games, 1 of 2 this season. But I like his receptions tonight. Low 2.5 receptions. He's cleared this in 9 of 11. So that's 82% of games that he's played on the Giants. And if you look, we filtered down his targets and we moved that in week the game against Philly last year, the playoff game. I'm not even gonna throw that out. That was just such a mess of a game. Yeah. But if you look at the Dallas game, he only had 3 targets, right? So he's probably not going to get 3 receptions on 3 targets. But if we just bump this filter up to 4 targets, so when he gets 4 targets, he's cleared every single game as a Giant. So
nice.
I think he's going to be more involved in the offense. The other thing I really liked was the value you can get on this. So right now, Caesars -148, DraftKings -150, BetMGM -155. FanDuel has this for -136. So you're getting like really good value. I think he gets 3 to 4 catches tonight. So I like Hodgins' 3 receptions.
And I like it. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that this was one of my preseason picks for an over on season-long receiving yards. So I was high on him going into the season. So I like this. I like this play. I'm behind it.
All right, that's beautiful. All right, so what do we got left? We got running.
The most controversial one.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? I'll save my comment until you present it. But let's go straight to McCaffrey. We've been cashing on McCaffrey all season with overs on rushing and receiving, overs on anytime touchdowns. He's just been a cash cow for us. And what do you want to do with him today?
I don't know if I can fade McCaffrey, but I'm going to run through a lot of data here that would for other teams, running backs, it would probably be a massive fade spot. Just don't know if I could get there with McCaffrey, but I'm going to lay it out and let's see what we think. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So the Giants defense has allowed the 3rd fewest rush yards per attempt at 2.7. For comparison, San Francisco has allowed 3.6, and New Orleans has allowed the most at 6.1. So pretty good there. Giants defense is tied for 2nd in tackles for loss at 9. For comparison, San Francisco defense has only had 2 tackles for loss early in the season.
Right.
On the other hand, though, the Giants defense has allowed the 4th most runs of 10 plus yards at 7. San Francisco's only allowed 1 run of 10 plus yards. So we have a slight contradiction there. Giants defensive line is 10th in run stop win rate. And here's where we get the biggest mismatch of the day. You look at San Francisco's offensive line, they are tied for the 3rd worst run block win rate. So this is the matchup that was jumping out on paper here in terms of running the ball, running backs against the Giants defense. But let's look at catching the ball now. So the Giants defense is tied for the fewest targets and receptions to opposing running backs at 6 targets and 4 receptions.
Yeah.
For comparison, San Francisco is tied for the 5th most receptions to running backs at 13 and the 4th most targets at 18. So doubling up these numbers by far. So what do you think? All that being said, any thoughts?
I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense to fade McCaffrey, but I personally can't do that because of his potential to just like rip an 80-yard run on any given play. I just think. But if you take out those 2 explosive plays that he's had so far this year, I think he's had like a 60-plus yard run. Let's see. I don't know if they were rushes or receptions, right? Where's the rush?
You have to click on the side of it.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's had some explosive plays. You take those out, he didn't cover either of his games. So
Yeah.
I think if they can avoid that one, then he's a definite under. Yeah, I don't know. You tell
Okay.
me what you're thinking.
So I think the game script also. I think this game probably gets away. Gets away from the Giants. I think it's a short week, right? He's run for a ton of yards in these first two games, like a crazy workload. So I think
right, 20 plus attempts, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, San Francisco on the short week, as soon as they could, I think they'd look to take him out of the game. So I think, you factor that into some of your plays here as well, although that's, of course, baked into the lines here. So I was looking at a different angle here. I liked how the Giants have allowed the fewest targets and receptions to running backs. So I was taking a look at McCaffrey's receptions here.
Okay.
So it's not 5.5. It's 3.5 on DK at plus 130, or you could get it at 4.5 on FanDuel at minus 162. So let's look at the 3.5 because you'll see that on more books. I think that's what it is on DK, BetMGM. He's only gone over this in 4 of his last 10 and 2 of his last 5. So I think that's nice. But if you go up to the 4.5, you're paying some juice at minus 160. But over 4.5, only 9 of his last 22, 6 of his last 15, 3 of 10, 1 of 5. And 5 of 14 in wins, which I think they'll have tonight. So I think this might be the angle. If you don't mind paying the juice, to go under on his 4.5 receptions here.
Yeah, don't be afraid of a minus 160, because what you can do is you can put that with something like San Francisco minus 2.5 or something like that, and you'll probably bring that down to a pretty reasonable minus 120 or something like that. So I think it's always, don't ever dismiss a minus 160 bet. Because you can put it with a high probability minus 500 play and get it closer to that plus 100.
I do have something else you could put it with.
What's that?
McCaffrey. So let's take that under 4.5 receptions and let's parlay it with his under 80 rushing yards. Okay. He's only gone over 80 rushing yards in 3 of his last 13 home games and 3 of his last 9 home wins. And 10 of his last 22 overall. So I think this could be a nice spot. It's never fun fading Christian McCaffrey. I don't love it, but I know when all this data and all this matchup stuff is speaking to me like this, sometimes you just gotta, follow what the data tells you, right? We are lovers of data here at PTM.
We do, but we also don't like to be embarrassed when McCaffrey runs 100 yards down the field. How about, okay, so I like those takes. I probably like the receptions angle the best. I think that's probably the safest. We also had a question from our follower, Yup, on X for rushing attempts. So this is the home view. So what do you like here in terms of rushing attempts? He's put up 22 and 20 so far this season. You like him to go under 17.5?
Yeah, I would lean this under 17.5 based on all the things we just said. I think the biggest selling point for the 17.5 under would be game script and getting him out of the game early. With them probably being up big at the half.
Yeah, and I think Elijah Mitchell will probably play a bigger role in this game, is what I've read. So hopefully he gets a few more touches, although they don't even have props available for him, I don't think. So that's kind of it. Oh, no, there we go. We got some receiving yards, for rushing yards, 31.5. So maybe he takes some touches away. So, yep, under the rush attempts, under 17.5. I wouldn't go down to 16.5. Okay.
All right.
Who else do you got? Anybody else in this game?
I got one other here. Yeah, let's. I love a good narrative, right? So Saquon's out. Matt Breida getting the start for the Giants here. He's getting the start against San Francisco, in San Francisco, the team that signed him as an undrafted free agent, who he went to the Super Bowl with against the Chiefs. He's wearing the jersey right there. Didn't have a big role on that team, but he was on that team. I like the what do I have here? I think this is a good spot for him. I like 2.5 receptions, was plus 140 on DK. Looking ahead at his stats is kind of a waste of time. I feel like it's this guy he hasn't been a starter when you're looking at any of that data.
He gets no touch. I mean, this was the only game against Philly last year where he had any sort of volume, right? If you just
what were his snaps? Can you see his snaps in that game?
His snaps. Right, he was up on the field for 44 of 64.
So that's more likely what it's going to be today, right? So
that's, but I mean, it's a small sample. But if you look at his receptions in that game, he had 7 receptions in that game.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
2.5 plus 140.
His rush attempts in that game he only had 4 rush attempts in that game. So, and his rushing yards were at 28. So I agree with you. I think receptions might be a good angle. What book can you get that at?
DK.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you wanted to, I think his rush and receptions together, it's only 48.5. That's minus 115 on DK. I think that's also a nice play here too, seeing as what he did within those, that one game where he had the high snap count. So I think that's a nice play too.
All right, cool. All right. You ready to move to our final segment, the anytime touchdown, put you on the spot section?
Oh boy.
You shouldn't be surprised.
I know, but
we've done this every almost every pod. So, all right. So anytime touchdowns, we're filtering for tonight's game, and let's start. First of all, the first thing that pops out to you is Christian McCaffrey, who we were on week 1, is now minus 220, which is insane. I was almost inclined
plus 100, right?
We got it for plus 100. I was almost inclined to go find see if there was a book that would let you go under, because minus 220 is crazy. But so anyway, so after that, who are you feeling here?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna stick with the guy brought up already. We'll go with Darius Slayton at plus 500. Ooh. I think I could see him airing one out and him breaking one off, and we'll cash that anytime TD and the longest reception in one shot. How about that?
I like that. I'm going with Isaiah Hodgins. I'm going back to that guy. He's only getting 3 catches today, probably, but one of them is going to be for a touchdown. That's also plus 500. Look at that hit rate, 56% hit rate in 2022. So he is a touchdown machine, and he had one last week. So I like
all our Giants friends and family fans will be happy with these 2 picks. So job well done.
Yeah, I mean, there's a disproportionate number of picks that we've made for the Giants today, from when they're really not the better of the 2 teams. But all right, and last but not least, since we've really covered everything that came across on Twitter, we also had Lucas with Jordan Mason. So to be completely honest, Lucas not only said Jordan Mason touchdown, but he said Jordan Mason last touchdown. Very aggressive. I think Jordan Mason touchdown is plus 1,400, so that's probably good enough odds there. And if you look at his last touchdown of the game, it's plus 7,000 on DK. So I had to look up who Jordan Mason was, even to talk about this. Jordan Mason's the 3rd string running back for San Francisco. He's had 43. I think this is his 2nd year in the league. 43 carries last year, 0 carries so far this year. If this is a blowout, maybe Jordan Mason gets a few carries at the end of the game and maybe pops one in. So I do agree. If you're gonna play Jordan Mason for a touchdown, you might as well play for the last touchdown, because he's probably sneaking one in garbage time. But very small play if you do play it. But that'll be fun. I hope Lucas nails this one today. So
yeah, that'll be cool.
All right, cool.
All right, I think that does it. Right? We will maybe put together a little parlay or something, and certainly get a few picks up on X here, right? And let's enjoy the game. Let's go Giants. Let's make it competitive, and let's all make some money tonight.